Hello, I'm Felicia Vereen, always known as Fee.
Hey, Fee, and I'm your girl, Sharita 3, better known as Fred.
And we are Inspire Her, the Total Woman podcast, all about uplifting you.
Yes.
Because friends, face it, you are awesome.
We'll be chatting up about topics we love to talk about. All the things we as women must juggle every day and the ish we complain about. But who's listening? Girl,
we'll chat about the struggle, the job, and about him. You know who we talking about.
Girl.
That boo, husband, boyfriend, ex, whatever you calling them today. Our lovely hellions, kids.
Our angels. But seriously, friends, life happens, and we don't always get a chance to talk about it. We take it on the chin and we keep it moving.
Because that's what we were told to do.
Yep.
But here on Inspire Her, the Total Woman podcast with Red and Fee, we are the friends you love to hang out with. We are here to inspire her, the Total Woman.
Yeah. Well, hello there.
Hey, Red, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Look, am I good? I'm not stuck, am I? I don't know why I'm having issues today.
You are good. You are good. You're good.
I just want to make sure I ain't stuck in some crazy position looking crazy.
But it was good to see you this weekend. This weekend that passed. Fee was here in Richmond on Thursday being honored by the National Association of Black Accountants.
Yes.
And so she was one of the presidents. So she was mentoring and speaking to current members and stuff. So it was awesome to see you in your element.
It was our 35th anniversary, and I'm sitting up there like, man, I was number 6. I was the 6th president, and it's been 35 years. I'm like,
wow.
Up there. But listen, when we got together, we were, my friend, listen, let me tell y'all about my friends. I don't know if y'all have friends like mine, but let me tell you about mine. They saw me on social media, they called me, they saw all the things that I had been doing, and then they saw my disappointment, my hurt, all of that. So when I got home, they just kind of made sure that life was good while I was there and that I had time to relax. And this one right here is my unofficial counselor, because that's what she does in her business. And she just poured into me. And then we decided to pour into others. So that's where we came up with, sis, you okay? Are you okay? Because that's what they asked me. Are you okay? And I had to say, no, I'm making it through. I'm struggling, but I'm making it through. And because of some of these women and men that we have online right now, I'm getting to the other side of disappointment and hurt. So I decided to invite some of my friends and some of our friends. Mr. Malcolm Ennis, I invited him because he's always had something good to say, something to make me want to think and go, well, maybe I shouldn't be thinking like that. And then I invited Miss Sabrina Newby, and I'll give everybody a chance to go back and introduce your own self. I invited Miss Sabrina Newby because she has an organization here that I have been working with and will continue to work with. And I just wanted to understand, where she was, where she's like. She's from a rural area here outside of Savannah, Georgia. And they did a lot of talking about the rural areas in Savannah, Georgia. So I just want to hear her perspective from that area. And then we have Miss Mahogany Bowers, who does, for those who know her in the Savannah area, you know that she does a lot of work in the community for our people. And I just want to hear, what she has to say as far as what she's been hearing in the community, and just hear, what she feels like. So I'm gonna go back around and to Malcolm, and tell us what you do.
I'm muted.
No, you're good.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Mute your mic, Fee.
There we go. There we go. How you guys doing tonight? Everybody all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So my name is Malcolm X Ennis. I've known these ladies for quite some time, dating back to high school and what have you. And since leaving high school, I went to college in DC. At Howard. And since then, I've kind of worked in the radio, kind of communications field, right? And so worked in radio and ended up kind of migrating over to the sales side of radio. Did that for a number of years. My travels have kind of taken me to Cincinnati, Ohio, Mobile, Alabama, and where I kind of settled down in Houston, Texas. And so I have, as well as Tallahassee, Florida. But I had been working in Houston, Texas for a number of years. And then after working with company Radio One, I had an opportunity to buy my own radio stations. And so I kind of, took that leap of faith and I bought it. And so, and I bought the station in my wife's hometown here in Natchez, Mississippi. And so it has been an experience, but I am enjoying it and kind of enjoying the process of. There's a lot of teaching going on, so I'm enjoying kind of teaching people a little bit about not only radio but just marketing and advertising, and the power of collective economics, which I don't think kind of in this Bible Belt area. I don't think it's necessarily been taught that much. So yeah, and so here we are today. Glad to be here.
Well, thank you for being here and good to see you again, Miss Mahogany.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mahogany Bowers. I am the founder of Blessings in a Book Bag. Blessings in a Book Bag is a local 501c3 that ensures that children have food over the weekend. We all know that Monday through Friday, kids eat at school, but on the weekends, that need is still there. And for the past 15 years, Blessings in a Book Bag has been able to help fill that hunger gap here in the city of Savannah. I am also the proud founder of a new local business. It is the Y-Bar Savannah. The Y-Bar Savannah is not just a place, it's an experience. It is the newest and hottest event venue located in downtown Savannah, and it is a place for us to collectively come together. One of the things that I heard Malcolm talk about was Kuchi Chakalia, which is collective economics, which is one of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. And I do agree with you on that. So the reason why the Y-Bar is not just a space for you to be able to come and celebrate your transitions, your pivots, and those new stages in life, it's also an opportunity for us to collectively come together and have those meetings, to be one with each other, and also to figure out what our next steps are collectively.
Love it, love it. Miss Sabrina, and you're on mute.
Let me unmute myself. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Sabrina Newby, and I'm originally from Louisiana, so I'm very familiar with Natchez. Family was there and everything. We landed on Liberty County Rock in 2001, as I like to say, by way of the military, and we decided to make it home. I worked as a director for the DoD for 18 years, and then I went into business for myself. I jumped into business. My husband and I, we opened up 5 stores in 5 rural counties here in Georgia. And then I started to learn about economics. I did a deep dive into economics, and then I understood that you don't grow if you are not attached to politics. So when I got into the politics side of things, then I really understood where things stood in regards to people of color. And I've submerged myself into it. My background is in law and policy. My education is in law and policy. So I have worked with many of our elected officials from the federal level on down to the local level. I've helped implement policies. Some I've even written, and I continue to do so to this day.
Wow, you guys are amazing. Wow. Okay, so this show came about. Fia and I had kind of been on a hiatus, with the election and everything. So when we were together, this just, it was like people are not okay. So we wanted to give space, right after the election, everybody was kind of up here, right? So now we're kind of bringing it on down, but we're still in our feelings. I cried, I prayed, I cried, and I prayed. That was my experience. And now I'm at that point of I'm just accepting what it is. I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna eat my popcorn. But people like Fee and you guys stump the ground and stump the yard with the thing, and just the disappointment of it all. So we got a couple of clips we want to kind of show to see how other people may be feeling too, that it's not just us feeling this way.
All right,
ready?
so we're gonna play this first clip, and then we'll play the second one a little bit later. But this very first one is, as someone asked the question of why can't we just come together? Remember, what was it? Why can't we just all get along?
Rodney King, can we all just get along?
Why can't we all get along? Well, I think they asked the question again, and we're gonna let y'all see what the answer was. All right, I'm gonna share my screen real quick, so don't let me lose you.
By the segment we did here on the Readout last week, in which a Yale-trained psychologist counseled those who are distraught about the results of the presidential election and frankly frightened over the prospects for their own lives because of it, that they do not owe the people who voted for the very things they're terrified of their time over the holidays.
There is a push, I think just a societal norm that if somebody is your family, that they are entitled to your time. And I think the answer is absolutely not. So if you are going to a situation where you have family members, where you have close friends who you know have voted in ways that are against you, like what you said, against your livelihood, and it's completely fine to not be around those people and to tell them why.
Cue the people who just 2 weeks ago were screaming, "Let's go, Brandon," and cheering as J.D. Vance called Vice President Harris the trash he was going to take out. Now yelling, "Why can't we all come together?" Really? I seem to recall that when your guy lost the last election, you didn't come together. Your people stormed the Capitol, smashed in windows and rioted, beat up and nearly killed police officers, and menaced poll workers all over the country. MAGA people issued so many death threats to Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shay Moss, they had to leave their home in Georgia. But it didn't stop there. Those who spoke out against Donald Trump's attempts to overturn the election got death threats too, and they were all Republicans. And now that your guy won, suddenly y'all want to come together? Would that be before or after we get over your body, my choice? Look, clearly, Brandon wants to come together. Here he is, keying with the guy he was just recently saying was destroying the soul of America. It's a remarkable scene. When Biden beat Donald Trump in 2020, Trump refused to attend his swearing in. But Biden will surely be right there at Trump's. You know, I guess the whole peaceful transition of power thing only works for Republicans when the power is being peacefully transferred to them. And it's not like Donald Trump has changed. His entire campaign was centered on anything but coming together, but rather around insults, threats, weird swaying, and Hitler quotes. So please educate me. What would you like us to come together around? You all are the ones claiming that this lady, the sitting vice president of the United States, would have been a DEI hire as president, despite having been a duly elected prosecutor, attorney general of the largest state in the union, a United States senator, and the VP. While you claim this guy is more qualified than she is because he's a man and he played a successful real estate tycoon on a popular TV show? Seriously? Are we meant to come together around his running mate, whose only job prior to 18 months as a senator was working for Peter Thiel, but apparently is not a DEI vice president for some reason that I cannot fathom? A guy who has not once taken back his insults against half the women in this country? We're coming together on sliming women as childless cat ladies now? Really? The 4-star general is a DEI hire to you, scared to get on a plane with a black pilot types. But this guy is qualified to be Secretary of Defense because he was a National Guard captain and co-hosts a popular weekend TV show on Fox. I wonder what makes him not DEI. I'll keep noodling on it. I'm sure it'll come to me. And Trump is hiring a bunch of these underqualified people for really important jobs in his next administration, demanding that we all affirm them as perfectly serious candidates so we can all, come together. It is a common feature of authoritarianism and fascism that the nation is called to come together under the autocrat and accept that his incompetent lackeys are our betters. The idea that any random white guy or right-thinking woman with zero background is inherently superior to any black person or woman, no matter how many degrees or qualifications they have, is a conceit of fascism and ethno-nationalism that, no, we cannot come together around. We cannot come together around mass deporting millions of immigrants and potentially separating families or throwing them into internment camps. We can't come together around kicking women or gay, bi, or trans people out of the military just because Macho Man weekend TV guys said so. Or around the idea of banning abortion and IVF nationwide and watching more women die from sepsis or more teenagers giving birth to rape babies. We can't come together around Matt Gaetz, who was accused of trafficking a teenage girl, something he denies, being the top law enforcement official in the land and getting to see all the evidence against him, including the identities of his accusers with the freedom to persecute them and prosecute anyone else that Donald Trump tells him to. We cannot come together around banning accurate Black history or renaming military bases after Confederate generals. We cannot come together around ignoring the women who accused Trump of sexually harassing or abusing them. We cannot come together around Elon Musk, who runs an app infused with racism and misogyny, and who gained that app to sway an election and now essentially co-owns a president alongside Vladimir Putin. We cannot come together around the United States becoming the junior partner to Russia and the handmaid to letting Bibi Netanyahu and his right-wing religious fanatics destroy what's left of the Palestinian people. Joe Biden is perfectly free to come together with Trump and the people who literally 3 days ago were calling him every name in the book because he's the president and therefore immune from prosecution by our soon-to-be autocrat under John Roberts' rules for American kings. So he has the privilege of coming together with the guy who quoted Hitler on his way back to the White House. Some of us do not have the privilege to come together around that.
Wow. That was powerful. And it almost speaks to Malcolm, something that you were saying maybe off camera about the Democrats.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that, and again, this is just kind of my personal opinion on it. I think that, Democrats play politics by a certain set of rules, right? Where, to me, Republicans don't, right? They seem to, they play the political game to win. Mm-hmm. And it seems as though the Democrats play the political game to be polite. And the politeness doesn't work with this against that team. Politeness doesn't necessarily work. And so I get it that I get that folks are upset, right? I think that this is a great time for us as a community, frankly, to nation build, right? I think that this is a time where politically, people are concerned, and I hate to say this word, but white folks are really concerned about a couple different things, right? And that's wealth and land acquisition, right? They're trying to build up that, the pocketbook. And so I think that one of the ways that we can kind of have an impact is if we can kind of figure out how we can kind of coalesce our economic base and affect change that way, because that's what people will pay attention to, in my opinion.
All right. So first, starting off, we're going back to the video. The title of this episode is Sis, Are You Okay? Obviously, we are not okay. We are working our way through it. And we're trying to get to the point that we are okay. I want to go around and ask, what did the election mean to you? Specifically at the point when Biden stepped down and we realized that VP Harris was in the opportunity to run. What did this election mean to you, Sabrina?
The night that President Biden stepped down, first of all, to me, it was a shock and an awe moment because we have never seen anything like that in our time. So I was happy. I was happy because I thought that he did the right thing. He put country before party, regardless of what the whispers were. I think he did the right thing. I know there were people who did not want him to step down. But I thought this was a new day, and I've always thought that. One of the things that I tell people is politics change every 2 years.
Yeah.
So if we stay stuck in that time frame, we never move forward. And to go along with what Malcolm says, yes, I do think Democrats have been playing nice for a very long time. We can't afford to play nice. Well, I don't know, even know if we'll have another opportunity to play nice after this election. But what I do know is we needed to usher in new people with new ideas that can move us forward. And then hopefully that would send a message throughout the country. Because even though I'm sorry, y'all, my husband just walked in. But even though, even though, the presidential election is huge, my main concern is what happens within the states. That's my main concern. So this time around, well, 2016, I was very much distraught. I know we all suffered from PTSD after the 2016 election, but the night of his election, I didn't even watch the news because I felt something off. The next morning, I woke up, looked at my husband who was coming out of the shower. He just smiled, and I knew she had lost. So, did I feel anything? No. I do stay away from the news because I don't want them to pull me back into that moment. But for me, I feel like this is just a pothole, and this is going to be the reinforcement that the Democrats so much need to help propel us to the movement that we all hope and pray that we get. But what does that look like at the end of the day? I think that's what we need. I think really that should be the conversation. But that's what it felt like to me.
Okay, Mahogany.
All right. It was very disappointing. So I actually, on that night, I fell asleep in the chair because I was trying to stay up and watch, and I was very hopeful. Although I was hopeful, I still was in a space of this could go either way. There was no point throughout this election and those 11 days that she was right. There was no space in my mind that, oh, this is done. Like, this is understood. This is going to be her shot. I knew that there was space because it happened in 2015 when he got elected. I never thought that would happen, and that did. So with that being said, you have Trump. I wake up to Trump on the TV giving his speech. And all I could do was sit there and just godsmack. Like, I just looked. I couldn't believe it. And that morning, I have a 13-year-old daughter. And my 13-year-old daughter, she told me, she said, she woke up, she said, Mama, did we win? Not did she win. My daughter asked me, she said, did we win? And the words could not leave my mouth. I just looked at her. And she just walked off like, I knew it. And it was very disappointing.
Right. What about you, Malcolm?
So I think for me, I think I could see it coming, to be honest with you, right? We had done about a week or so before, we had done a promotion with BET where they did the town hall meeting with the black men, that piece. And I probably wasn't supposed to, but I put it on the air, and so I aired the whole thing on the radio, right? But one of the things that I told my friend who was working on that project is I said, the challenge that I have is that the Harris campaign really hasn't, again, from what I could feel and see, they really haven't embraced, again, the Bible Belt, right? This area. And I felt so having seen that, like I just didn't see much, right? There wasn't a big presence in the area. And so that was a problem. And so then as you can kind of see the numbers on election night, you can see early on, I think she lost Tennessee very early. The slave holding states, she lost very early, right? That's just what it is, right? And then you could kind of see it as it just went across the whole Midwest all the way up top. It's like she was losing them. And it seemed as though...
I'm just kidding. She's from Virginia.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
But she lost North Carolina, right?
She lost all of the swing states.
And not only that, but even the states that we won back in 2020, she lost. She may have won some of those states, but the margins were much closer than they were before, like New York. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I think that we definitely missed something. So I was disappointed, right? But it kind of felt like, using kind of a sports analogy, you have your team that you're rooting for, and they look like they can win, but then the coach calls some bad plays, and it only takes a couple bad plays for you to lose the game. And so now it's like, you feel bad like your favorite team just lost the Super Bowl or what have you.
Right.
But again, in trying to look at it from a positive space, how do we take this time as a community to maybe kind of reflect on what we need to do to grow our influence a little bit, right? So that's kind of how I look at it. So yes, I was disappointed, but it's
other than not embracing the Bible Belt, as you call it, I've also heard that she pretty much campaigned to the class and left some of the lower class out, or the working class, the poor class out. What do you guys feel like some other reasons why she may not have won? Sabrina,
she ready. She tapping.
Yeah, I'm so ready. I'm trying. Look, just when I started to talk, my husband comes back in. I was on mute for that reason. So I want to speak specifically about Georgia. Let's talk about Georgia, because I know that like the back of my hand. 2020, when Senator Ossoff and Senator Warnock ran, I reached out to Senator Ossoff in 2018 as candidate Ossoff. And I told him, I was actually his campaign manager, and I told him, I said, hey, I can help you win coastal Georgia, but you got to work the coast.
Right.
And he said, pretty much, how do you do that? I laid out a plan. He followed it to the T. He made videos when he couldn't be there to basically communicate to the coast. He sent out letters, he sent out messages, he used surrogates, he used the grassroots movement to move him into the Senate, the senior Senate for Georgia. Still to this day, he's never removed that play. And he's been very much integrated into the rural areas of Georgia. So when we moved forward and we moved into, let's go into 2022, when we had Leader Abrams, who was running for governor yet again in the state of Georgia, they ran a very exclusive campaign, meaning they did not use a grassroots movement. And let me explain what that means. So let's just say, for instance, you are an elected official I know you because I'm running for office. I tap you to basically be my point person in your area. You tap all your friends who don't have the reach to be the point person for an entire district.
Mhm.
And they are looking at these people to be their mouthpieces, their point person. They're looking at these people to be able to communicate a message to folks that they don't even know or trust, instead of using the leaders within those communities to talk to their own people.
Yeah.
So we lost an entire slate in 2022. Now we're in 2024. It started off different. It started off different for VP Harris, but then at the end, it became the same play. And I was like, why are they leaving out rural pockets
Right.
of Georgia?
Right.
Why are they not going to talk to rural areas of Georgia? So when I started talking to folks, and yeah, of course, we had surrogates. There were surrogates. So I was a surrogate for the campaign. So we were just like out there talking to certain part. But one person, you know, at the end of the day, these people were like, okay, so why isn't this person who is the top of the ticket coming to talk to us? Well, I was like, can y'all send us a video? Can y'all send us a message specifically to this rural community? Let them know that they're on your mind. And I think to some people who were at the top of the orchestration list, they felt like, well, we've never done that before, so why should we do it now? Well, you just ostracized that whole demographic. You don't get those votes. And that is what happened. People didn't come out to vote this time, and they're saying they're going to continue to not vote because nobody cares about these rural pockets. And let's just be clear. When we're talking to people who are in our capitals and they look at these rural areas, they look at the people in those rural areas as uneducated,
Yes.
and they're just supposed to fall in line with the program.
Yep.
But I had to tell them several times, look, we ain't Atlanta and we ain't Savannah. Now, I'm a rural girl. I come from rural Louisiana, but I have been exposed to the world. I'm an educated woman, so I expect to see more from you than for you to send somebody who I don't know, who doesn't know the talking points, who can't sway me on my issues to come and speak to me, or tell someone else, can you go talk to her and make them understand this is what we're trying to do? No. I need someone to really articulate the message, make me feel as if I'm part of this with you. So at the end of the day, when that doesn't happen, don't be surprised when people of color, not even just people of color, but those poor Hispanics, those poor white members of the Democratic Party who actually wanted to vote for you, you miss those people too. So don't be surprised when they don't come out and vote. And they say, this is why I didn't, because nobody came to talk to them. And they'll say, well, she can't go everywhere, or that person can't go everywhere, but you are expected to. So if you can't make it, you use your number 2, number 3, number 4. I don't care, because that person that you have tapped into, that's like number 1,000, number 1,500, 2,000. You get those people that are closest to you to come out and communicate your message. So yeah, we have a game to play, but how do we play? How do we prep? Or how do we basically prep 15 minutes before the big game? And that's where we were. We were trying to prep 15 minutes before the game. Nothing was in place. This was so different than what we've ever experienced. So we have 4 years to plan and to tap those people who are boots on the ground, that are leaders, that are unelected, that people trust and believe that these people will have my best interest and I can accept what they say as truth, to speak for me and speak to me. So tap into those people, because we have 4 years of this. That's whatever it's to come, and maybe even longer if he so chooses that this is the last presidential election that we will ever engage in. So we have a lot to think about moving forward. I didn't mean to monopolize so much of the time, but I just had to say that.
I think it's great.
Do you think that that's why the Black farmers in Georgia voted for him?
Yes,
Well,
yes.
Now,
I reached
will tell you-
out. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I reached out to the Black Farmers Association, and I asked them if they would join the call. And when I did, they said, well, we are not going to endorse her. And we had a long conversation. I said, why? They said, because we've reached out to her team several times and no one has come back to us.
Do you think she had enough time to really put together an effective team, or you know what I'm saying, like, or should she have just been? What did she use Biden's team, or did she get a chance to create her own team with so little time to campaign? Or I know it's kind of, she was kind of playing the game as she went along, so she should have added those things, and she should have had you on her team.
Well, I was on her team. But I was like number 4,000. I was
Right.
like way down there.
The top
And
10.
I
know
was a surrogate within my community. But the thing is, when they believe in you enough as a candidate, they want to see that you believe in them equally. And they want for you to send someone that may be your assistant person to come and talk to them. That's just what being politically correct is. So for me as Sabrina Newby to put a call together, and we had 5,000 people on the call, but to still have the Black Farmers Association to say, we're not going to endorse her because that her team hasn't talked to us, it may not have gotten to her. You know, we have to think about it that way. But in the end, they did endorse her. They did get a meeting with her, and he did come out and he eventually endorsed her. But again, 15 minutes before game time.
Right.
And it feels too
that, you know, here in Georgia, the office that I worked with, they were kids. They were 20-year-olds that was running that office. And we were pretty much telling them what to do. And sometimes they were stressed out, and I just think that these interns, these younger kids, they need to be in there with someone else that knows how to run a campaign office. And they did a great job for what they could do, but I just think, you know, putting somebody else in there that has more knowledge of what should be done at the time, I think that would have helped out a whole lot in Georgia. Well, in Savannah, let me say. I don't know about the other offices, but I think that would have helped out a lot more in Savannah. 100 days. I don't think that was enough time. No, it wasn't enough
time. Absolutely not. And like Tanya said, being a minority candidate. So, do you think that it was the right pick?
So then, but with that in mind, then does it then speak to Biden should have gotten out sooner, right? Like he saw that he wasn't getting the campaign. He saw that he wasn't getting those campaign contributions early enough, right? The money. And so at some point when you see you're not getting that support earlier in the game, you know, should he have gotten out sooner?
Absolutely. I think a week or two, even before that, when someone, maybe George Stephanopoulos, I sound like the other man mispronounces his name. He was adamant that he wasn't going to step down and he was going to see it through. And, you know, yeah, it definitely was. And this, you're talking about late.
Sabrina, I would ask you with the political insiders, you know, would you say that people knew Biden's condition well before the time that we saw him on that one debate? Like that didn't just happen, because really it was the debate that sparked this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
But my question would be is people knew well before that debate that the man was in some sort of a decline.
Yeah.
And at some point, again, and this is where we get into this polite politics that I think the Democrats play. And it's like, well, wait a minute, hold on. Let's have a real conversation. You know, do you have the energy and the stature to go up against Donald Trump again and this Tea Party following, right? Because it seems to me that much of the following in that Republican Party now, they're just Tea Party people kind of refurbished and brought back into the fold, right? Because these people are maniacal.
He is mad. He's not Republican. He created his own party.
Yeah, he got his own back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but the wild part is, again, and I would encourage everybody that, and this is something my mom put me on. If you guys watch PBS, they had a show on the other day it's called American Experience, and they were talking about the riots of 1898. So back then, the Democratic Party, which is now Republicans, right? These guys, the racist guys, they were known as the red shirts, right? And have you guys heard of the red shirts?
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. If you go back, if you look at that documentary again on PBS, it's the same thing. The Republicans or the Democrats at that time, they strong-armed, right? It was strong-arm politics. It was intimidation politics. I mean, they virtually went in and essentially just took over, kind of like what we're seeing now. And again, that's why I think, Sabrina, to your point that, we got to get some new blood in there. We got to figure out, not that we want to play dirty, but are we going to play to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what does that look like? For me, I think that some of the challenge with the messaging with the Harris camp is that clearly America was more concerned about economy and immigration issue, more so than the decision to control your own body for the women. And so I think that speaks volumes into the mentality of the country. And I think that if the majority of your message is about women being able to control the rights of their own body, you're missing a whole group of people who are more concerned about the economy, about how much bread costs, how much is milk. And here's a guy, and his whole mantra is, I'm gonna fix the economic problem. And
Absolutely.
and she wasn't doing that. And so clearly, by having the popular vote, the overwhelming number of states that she won, her message wasn't on point with where the concerns of the people were. That's what it seems like.
But so that kind of tells me, Malcolm, that this world don't really care about us.
And that's what I was just about to say.
It's all about
care.
the money.
Well, wait a minute, but care about who? Talking about black people of color?
Women.
Everybody.
Well,
period.
So here's the deal. So let's think about this now. You got to keep in mind, when he talks about make America great, okay, he's talking about the 1950s and the 40s, right? So if you go back and look at the status of what women, the rights and things that women had at that time, right?
They had.
I mean, women were supposed to be at home, cooking the dinner and whatever with the kids, and greeting dad when he comes home from whatever. So from a Republican mindset, that's their mentality.
Well, we ain't going back.
Okay, but see, here's the thing. Here's the thing though. That was part of the mantra, right, for the Harris party. But again, the man won the popular vote. So what I'm saying is that was the wrong message about going back, because clearly people don't care about that. All they want to know is, can you get the price of food down and get these Mexicans up out of here? Just to be honest.
They're taking our black jobs.
Because they're taking our black jobs.
Well, they're taking
I agree with you, Malcolm. She really didn't speak to.
I agree with that.
It was a reproductive rights, which,
and I think she invested too much. I think she invested too much money in these coastal areas. It seemed like the play was, we're going to target the areas that had the most electoral college votes, right? And so if we can get those big spots, we're not going to worry about the middle, where Trump just played the small game. He said, we're just going to build up all these rack up the points. And then if we can cut into her lead in some of these other states, hey, we can cut in. I know she spent a lot of money in Texas. Listen, you're not turning Texas blue. Okay?
No.
Texas ain't going. Now, it might go purple, but you ain't turning it blue. So you spent too much money.
Right. She did spend a lot of money in Texas.
She spent a lot of money in Texas.
Wisconsin. She just hit really like the big cities and the swing states because she took, she assumed that she was going to get the West Coast, which she did. But I mean, he kicked her ass in this election. To be honest.
And listen, and these people don't care about Beyonce on no stage. Okay,
No.
They don't care about John Legend performing. People,
No.
This election, people said, "Wait a minute, I don't care about the sizzle. I don't care about none of that. Talk to me about how you're gonna make my family's life better."
Right.
And I think that as a party, we need to begin to think about, okay, are we putting together policy, or are we at least speaking to the policies that we want to put together that really focus on the little person? I think, Sabrina, you mentioned in terms of the type of campaign that she ran almost felt like a bourgeois campaign because she wasn't speaking to the the Democrats didn't really speak to the average lay person. It was this bourgeois kind of message.
Right. So help me understand this. I can go and get a felon who mistreats and sexually women, and it's been proven, who is a blatant racist, who could care less about poor people.
A pathological liar.
And is clueless as to what a woman needs, and put him on stage and he says some of the right things about your pocket, and it's okay. It makes it okay.
I think but I mean, he's consistent. A lot of the things that I heard from people as it pertains to Democrats, I heard Democrats say, listen, I don't like him personally. He's not someone who I would go and have dinner with. He's not someone who I would want around my children. But when it comes to running the country, it's business. And I agree with Malcolm in the sense of, as Democrats, we are entirely too nice. We're constantly worried about what it looks like. And I think that there was a very fine line for her that she was teeter-tottering on and trying to figure out in those 100 and something days, the fact of, okay, I need to be a lady, but I have to be aggressive. But I can't be too aggressive, because if I'm too aggressive, then they're scared of me, and then I look too black. So I can't be too black, but I need to be black enough. So let me get Beyonce on the stage. There was a myriad of things. And Red, what you were saying earlier, you were asking the question, you were saying, well, what is it? Like, was it the fact that she didn't have enough time? Was it the fact that, she wasn't in the coastal area? Was it the fact? I think it was all of those things and some more. It was not enough time. And I sincerely believe that Democrats are not playing to win. And what I mean specifically by that is, I was raised in a household that said there's no such thing as fair fighting when you are fighting. Right. And I believe that as Democrats, we have a space in our minds, and especially for women, because there's a stigma there to be a lady at all times, and this is what a lady looks like, right? I do believe that there's a stigma there, and she was dealing with that of trying to fight, but for it not to look a certain type of way. And I have seen women at the national level as well as the local level lose a election because they were trying to remain a lady. That is gone. And that's just not for specifically women. That's just for Democrats. When you're fighting, you are fighting. And anyone who is in politics or has been around politics, they will tell you politics is a blood sport. If you are not ready to fight, if you are not ready to fully activate, then you might as well stay on the porch. Because literally, this is one of those things. And to add to what Sabrina was saying, just about our leaders, grassroots, and different things, I did not see that in this election, and that was crazy to me as a presidential election. Now, local elections, you kind of see some laziness, and you don't really think anything of it because you're like, oh, here we go again, especially in the South. But when it comes to presidential, people usually activate. And I saw less people on the street corner holding signs who were getting paid $20 to $25 an hour to sit in a chair and hold a sign. I saw less people during this presidential election than I saw locally in Savannah, Georgia, during our local election. And that, to me, was definitely a sentiment. And as Malcolm said, I wasn't surprised. I could see the shift. I could see the turn. There was something that was different in the air. So I wasn't surprised, disappointed, but definitely not surprised. And I do believe as Democrats, we are too focused on being nice, and we have people who are in these positions, who have sat in these positions for way too long. I also agree with Felicia in the sense of we had young people who were boots on the ground, but these people were not in the community. They had no fault. They may have been able to push the paper, which is extremely important. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's extremely important for somebody to push the paper, but nobody was on the ground, grassroots, to be able to knock on a door and say, ma'am, my name is. And before they finished their name, the person on the other side of that door said, I know who you are.
Mhm.
Because I know who you are. It wasn't there. There was no connectivity, and I did not feel the synergy.
Yeah.
Well, the office that we worked with, the main guy was from Atlanta. They sent their Atlanta people to Savannah, and we were like, we had one little guy, Cameron, who was from Savannah, and it was just like we didn't quite understand that.
So in the beginning, guys, I think it was a lot of excitement behind her because remember, she $100 million she raised in a matter of a week. So do you think people just like gave up on her, or what do you guys think? Because people were rooting for her and they wanted her to win. So do you feel like she lost people in that?
I think the people who gave her money are the people that supported her. But she just, one of the things I was told is that, I wish I had the clip because she spelled it out so well. She showed that Kamala got pretty much the same amount of people that Biden had before.
Voted for her?
He said that it was very close. She spelled it out moment for moment. She said, but the problem is that Trump went and got people from rural areas, backwoods folks that didn't used to vote.
Yeah.
And
he was able to get people, because of him and her, there were people that didn't vote.
Right.
So between the people that didn't vote and the people that he went and found, literally going to these small towns, like y'all said, rural areas, and talking to these folks, he was, in his group of people, he was able to get more people to come out and vote that had not. They told whatever percentage of it that people that had not voted in a while that actually came out and voted. I don't know if he promised people acres of land or what he promised them, but he was able to come out and vote.
I don't think he got as many votes as
I don't think he promised anyone anything. I think he resonated with people. First of all, what a misstep that I thought that they should have never done was say the prosecutor versus the felon. When we're trying to get ex-felons to register to vote for Democrat. Do you know how offensive that is? That was number one. So that lived and died very quickly. Then I think the fact that, and I hear this a lot, especially in rural areas, they don't want you to talk with your education. I mean, like they push back against science. They want you to be relatable. And this is why they say when they get behind candidates, that candidates had a story that resonate with the people. And that's how they win. I think they saw Trump as a person, though he was wealthy, he was still one of them because he was being beat up on in so many ways. And even though we knew what we were going to get, I think that we have to remember that the Democratic Party is not a monolith. And I have to remind people of that all the time because we have white Democrats that believe that they have their own set of issues that they're fighting for. Then you have the Black Democrats, and we're divvied up on the issues that we fight for. So we're not a monolith. And I do know a lot of conservative Democrats that were like, some of the points that he was making was registering with them. So I think the steps that we took, I think the strategy was off. Yeah, she didn't have a long time to strategize, but I've heard people say that they hovered too much on the LGBTQ issue. That was and the trans, the trans issue for children. That wasn't an issue to them. And I say in every election, what President what's his name, Bill Clinton said. It's the economy, stupid. It's always the
The
economy.
economy.
So nobody listens to that. They pick out these issues that's important to them, and it's not important to the entire body. So of course you're not going to get the maximum effect that you want. And I think that's why he went over. He was able to go over because even though he had a concept, it was a working concept. And they were like, well, at least he got something.
So I
And I
did.
agree with you on that.
Mhm.
She did have Biden did have more votes than she did, but I think when I went back, she was trying to express how he was able to get even more. People didn't vote, and then he was able to go back and get people who had not voted in a while. Now, one of the other things that I see one of the comments. I tried to make sure that when we did canvas, because my organization, we did a lot of canvassing, but I tried to make sure that when we did canvas, that people understood and not just believe what they saw on TikTok, especially our young people. You say it on TikTok, it's got to be true, you know. And I wanted them to research because I wanted them to go back and understand this thing about her putting Black men in prison. I wanted them to go back and research and find out how many of those Black men she actually put in prison. You realize how many of the Black men that she did put in prison, it wouldn't have been such a huge issue. Two, let me say this, and let me ask this question. I need y'all to be really, really honest with me. If you do the crime, do you have to do the time?
I think that what we see right.
If I rob you, don't you want me to? You don't want me to go to? I can just go free and just. If I kill your family member, do you want me? Would you want me to go to jail? Would you want me to?
Sabrina just brought up, it is disrespectful to ask a convicted felon who cannot vote. It is disrespectful to ask someone to go and vote. So now when you ask that question, Felicia, it doesn't exist. It's for naught. It is for naught because you're comparing a standard which is no longer a standard. It doesn't exist anymore because
Exactly.
a felon sits in the highest seat. So I don't think that has anything.
The felon should be able to vote. Am I correct?
And I agree with you 110%. But how was he able to get those votes in those rural areas? And I believe because I've seen it happen on more than one occasion on national as well as local elections. I have seen white men win because they participate in fear mongering.
Yeah.
That whole thing that we joke about earlier about they're stealing your jobs. You better believe there are people who feel that way because who goes out and gets the most degrees right now? African American women who are excelling right now, driving Benz and Beamers and they driving Range Rovers.
Yeah.
Think that you have people who are not our color who are pulling up beside us in a little Corolla. Oh, you got that. In spite of it, and this is the thing, everything we do as a people is in spite of. So in spite of slavery, in spite of every barrier that you put up, in spite of the carrot that you put in front of me, and every time I get close to it, you pull it away. In spite of all of it, I still succeed. You gotta believe that there's some resentment there. And it's a quiet resentment. So for people who have that quiet resentment and who are not in a space to be bold and say how they feel, I can quietly go in that booth and I can quietly vote for who I want to vote for because I want to see a shift, whether I want to admit it or not. I do want to see a shift. And fear mongering is what I believe how those votes happen. It was fear mongering in these rural states to say, you deserve this. You shouldn't have to deal with this. And I do believe that he also made some promises that are never going to happen.
Absolutely.
So we
Now, let me
sit back, got popcorn.
Since we talked about that, I don't know if you heard it. It's a guy here in Georgia. How did you feel hearing a Black man say, shouldn't no Black woman be the president of the United States?
For me, because I've ran for a seat before, it is not my first time hearing it. On a local level, we're not even talking about on a presidential level. On a local level, I remember. So I am very grassroots. I am very boots on the ground. I'm that. With that being said, I had an opportunity to listen to my people, not anybody else, but I had an opportunity to hear that repeatedly out of my people's mouth. One of the things that I heard was, "You too pretty to run. Why you want to do that? You too smart to run. Why do you want to do that? You could be doing so many other things. Why would you put yourself in that dangerous position? As a woman, I don't think it's easy for you to do that. You need to focus on this." And the best one was, "Got time. You can do it later." And the reason why is because there is a sexism as it pertains to leaders. So we have to deal with it in real life, in our everyday, but we also have to deal with it when we go into these corporate or these areas where, we're the only ones, where we can't correct someone of a different color, because if we do, it's not going to be taken as a good idea. Who are you talking to?
Right.
So you said that you opened the door for me to say this. You opened the door. I'm going to step right on in. Malcolm said Democrats are being too nice. Well, I'm tired of being nice. So I'm going to say what I think, right? We can pet this thing. We can make it feel better. We can, like my aunt said, you can burp it, but it's still an issue. I believe this was a race issue, and I believe this was a sexist issue. That's it. I'm not paying attention to the comments. I'm sorry, guys, I haven't been paying attention to the comments. But for me to wake up and see, ain't nothing changed. Nothing. So for me, we need to, like you guys said, go into our communities and have conversations. Build the economy within our community. Then once we do that, stop, like you said, some people were affected when they said that Mexicans were going to take our jobs. Make sure they understand that you deserve better.
Well, also keep in mind, the Mexicans were afraid of people taking their jobs, right? Because there was a lot of the Mexicans who went through the process, or at least somebody went through the processes. They didn't want the other Mexicans to come over, the other immigrants. So it was some Mexican on Mexican, what have you as well, right?
I get it.
And let me say this in regards to our Black men. I have a mentor that I look up to, and he knew I was working with the campaign, and he called me one day and he said, "Where have you been?" And I said, "Oh, I've been busy with the campaign." And he just said, "Sabrina, she's not going to win." And I said, I was like, "Why do you say that? Oh my God." And everything that he said was related to her loss. He said, first of all, Black men are upset. He said there are a lot of Black men that are upset because she's married to a Jewish man. And he said, white women are not going to support her. And he said, of course, white men aren't going to support her because they're going to support Trump. He said, you are doing a lot of work for nothing. So I said, wait a minute, who are you voting for? He said, I'm voting for Cornel West. I said, are you really? Because I like Dr. West. And I was like, but are you really? Because I was like, that's a vote for, Trump. He's like, Sabrina, I just got to vote where my heart is. He said, and I hate to see that you're doing so much. And I just
Wow.
went on like, "Psh, you don't know what you're talking about." And this man is unbelievably intelligent. And the next day after the election, and I saw how this played out, I just texted him because I couldn't have a conversation with him. I just said, "You were right." And he called me. We had a conversation. But I'm telling you, again, we got to stop thinking that the Democratic Party is a monolith because we're not. I bet you each of us have a issue that's most important to you and outside of the economy, and none of them are the same. So that's a mistake. You got to stop thinking that Black people are just voting for Black people these days, because we have Black people that we know that are elected officials or have been elected into office, and we are having severe bio regret in regards to that. So we have to start thinking. And then, too, what I've learned as a woman, unless you are being paid for what you know, if you want to seek office, and this is as a Black woman, especially, not so much so for a white woman who's a candidate, you have to talk with your heart instead of with your mind, especially in our community, because of the fact misogyny is a very real thing. It's not just in the white community. It's not just in the white males or the Hispanic males. We have it as well. So I've had a person tell me, well, all that education you got, you need to come work for me. Doing what? Doing what? Doing what? So at the end of the day, we have to understand that Black women, and it's unfortunate, but true, because I just did not want to believe it, but we are the least protected group of people. We may be the most educated, but we are the least protected group of people in the nation, in the world. And until we understand that as a collective, the economy won't matter, policy won't matter, because we will never be able to come together and decide how we're going to move forward, even if you have a smart Black woman that can take us forward.
Exactly. So as business people and entrepreneurs, because I think all of us are entrepreneurs on some right, do we have any fear of this new administration? Do we feel it's going to benefit us economically? Are we afraid of what may happen? What are you guys' feelings about that?
I don't have any fear. I did in 2016. I don't have any fear now. We're in a new world. And what I have decided for me personally, I can't allow that fear to lead me into a place where I just don't want to do anything. I can tell you this, Trump has reached out to one of the organizations that I am affiliated with in regards to the Black economic issue, and he wants to work on that. He worked with Ashley Bell, if y'all can remember, on that for the SBA. And Ashley, though he's a Republican, he's a Black Republican that truly cares about the Black community. So, in regards to all of that, I'm not afraid. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And we got 4 years to come up with a plan to make sure that the next 4 years, if it's going to be painful, hey, the next 4 years after that won't be. So,
and as a business owner, I can honestly say that there is no fear for me. And the reason why it's much simpler is just the fact that as a Black woman, we know what suffering is. You really can't suffer a person who already knows what suffering is, right? If I'm the child enough, at some point, the child, they get in trouble, they'll go get the belt and bring it to you. Like all you gonna do is beat me again. So mind you, I believe that there, for Black women specifically, there is a mental and emotional resistance that we have, and we have built that up. And as far as a business owner goes, it was hard before. It's gonna stop
Right.
being hard.
It ain't gonna
It was
stop.
it was
Right.
already right. So there is no fear on my part of what's to come because in fight, flight, and fright, all of it makes you stand still except for fight. So I do
Mhm.
think that we need to mind our own Black businesses.
Yeah.
And I do believe that we need to collectively come together to communicate, to cooperate, and really try to figure out how we can collectively come together to do some things economically
Right.
and on a local level.
Absolutely.
I agree.
I think we have to have a part 2 of this. This is a good
Well,
conversation.
I mean, I agree. I think that first of all, I'm excited, to be honest with you, right? Because I know that the Republicans, again, they're about the economy. I think the money's going to start flowing.
Mhm.
And for me, again, as a station owner, I'm excited because I feel like a lot of these businesses are going to start spending more dollars in marketing, whatever their products are. Now there are going to be some issues with these tariff issues and whatnot, right? In terms of there are going to be some price increases. Now, when that will take effect, probably will be maybe a year from now, maybe 6 to 8 months. I don't think it's just, because when you enact those tariffs, it doesn't just take effect right then and there, right? So it takes a little bit of time. What I'm excited about is, again, this is an opportunity for the community to nation build, right? I'm a believer that economics will kind of lead us whichever. I think that every city, every town needs to create their own Black Wall Street. I think we need to realize and actualize what our own power base is, right? With the monies that we spend in this country. And that's a big challenge. That's one thing that we do not do. There are very few organizations that speak to that can speak to economic development. The schools are not teaching it, right? So these young kids out here who are big into photography and for videotaping, whatever the case is, as it relates to social media, you know, there's no mechanism built into the schools to teach these kids how to start businesses, how to run businesses, how to participate in this new economy that's about to come. And I think as a group, we have to kind of realize that's where our opportunity lies. I think a lot of these school districts that I deal with, I think that their method of teaching these kids are extremely antiquated, right?
Yeah.
I think, you have a large number of African Americans as well as Latinos in the community that have zero idea about technology. You could ask them a question about AI, they have no clue. You could ask them a question about how to use the cell phone in their hand. And outside of maybe taking a little bit of a picture, they don't have a clue as to the power that's right in their hands to make money. And I think that we have to get into a space where we are teaching that to each other. We, by and large, we're not teaching each other. Like if we get the information, sometimes we sit on it. Like
holding on to
as a community, we're not saying, look, we're not like, hey, look, I don't know if you know, but every class, every church, they should be talking about Bitcoin right now, right? Every one of them. Every one of them should be talking about AI, these churches. And again, this is where we got to change our mindset to get involved. These Republicans care about one thing, and that's the money. That's the money. They don't care about how you feel. They don't care about your body. They if you got some ideas on how we can make some money, then they're gonna listen to you. I mean, they destroyed Black Wall Street because those people were intimidated by the amount of money that those Black people were making in Tulsa. That's what it was.
Absolutely.
They saw these Black people walking around with mink coats on, and they look, and like you said, I think you said, Mahogany, you driving up to somebody and you in a Toyota Corolla and they in a Range Rover, and you like, well, damn, how they get that?
Or what
They
do
don't
you
like
do?
that.
What do you
The
do?
amount of times that I've been pulled over, I had a Porsche Cayenne, and there were times where I got pulled over by a police officer.
Of course.
Had a police officer ask me, "Is this my vehicle? Am I sure that this is my vehicle?" And every last one of them always said, "My wife wants this car." And they
Of
would just
course.
look at me with my ID in their hand. They would look at me. My wife really wants this car.
So see, to me, that's part of that is envy, right? Because they're looking at you and they're like, well, how do
Mhm.
you have it and I don't have that? And I'm a
Right.
police person and I got the power to control you to a degree. And again, I think that this is an opportunity. I'm excited by it. Where if we all will simply say, you know what, okay, these folks are going to play the game that they're going to play. How do we nation build our communities to get involved into this new economy? And then guess what? In 3 years from now we're better poised, right? Now we're putting people in offices. I mean, we can't even get on the same page to vote for folks for a school board around here. Okay, so if we can't even get on the same page for the school board, for the local school, and you have no resources, and you mad at the voucher system, and you're mad that the private Catholic school over here has all these resources, where all these black businesses in the area, how much have you guys contributed to the local school? I did a show on Sunday, and we had the superintendent of one of the school districts here, right? And so they're winning on the playoffs, with the football, high school football. So we had a chance to really kind of talk about the economics of high school athletics and how the money's generated from ticket sales from those high school games, how it affects the schools, right? So that we could get the audience to understand that we're wanting you to come to the game, not just to show up, but because this is how you help your school get the dollars so that they can reinvest back into the things to teach your kids, right? The same school, same stadium, they got the fences falling down. And so one of the things we talked about on the air is, again, as a community, we got to take accountability. You got an athletic program that's won district 3 times, but you mean to tell me with all these black contractors around here, none of you guys can go over to that school and fix that fence? Everybody gonna walk around and look at it? Like, we got to take responsibility ourselves to build our own situations up. I'm not worried about what these Republicans do. I'm gonna be honest with you, because that's on such a higher level from where my world is.
Right.
But I know where I can make the impact right here in this community. And if everybody would do their part to make that impact, then in 3 years, we could be having a whole different conversation when it comes to the next election. Because they're only going to respect me because of the money that we wield, the finance, the economic power. And I think as Democrats, we got to understand that that is the game that they are playing. If you talk money to a Republican, they're going to listen all day. You start talking about fairness and equality and health care for everybody, they're like, I don't want to. If you are obese and you got high blood pressure and you shouldn't be eating cheeseburgers and fries every day, I don't want to pay for you to go to the hospital.
Malcolm, one thing you said, I can definitely attest to, because I work at a Catholic school. The one thing a couple of things that I see is, one, their legacy is long. Okay. Granddaddy is still putting money into the school for his great grandchildren to go to. The money stays in the school. Alumni come to the school and say, I can fix that for you. We got a lot of alumni doing work for the school.
Well, only thing I would say is a lot of them probably have the money to do that, right? Because those businesses,
they don't have the money, they give labor. They give labor, and they keep that school, and it's black and white. But the other thing that I wanted to say is, I went through a whole lot of stages. I felt like I went through a whole lot of stages of grief. And I'm like, what in the world? The one place that I ended up at is, I'm a Christian, so God is going to be number one. Is that he was telling me, wake up. It's time for y'all to wake up. This is a wake-up call. It's time for y'all to wake up and figure this thing out. And everything you guys have said is on a list. I'm like, I don't know how to get it done, but the one thing that I can do is gather some people together to help me do it. So one of my goals, and I think we can do it. I mean, if we can do it across state lines, oh my God, can y'all imagine what we can put together? Remember, Sabrina, we was talking about the Black Caucus and all this stuff that we can do for the coastal area. Imagine if we can do state by state by state. If we could get 90-some thousand women on a call, a Zoom call, within a week, imagine what we can do. We broke Zoom. Zoom had to fix some things because we broke Zoom. So imagine if we pull in our Black men, you know, people that want to help, brown, Black, whatever you are, white people, whoever. We can make this thing happen. And like you said, we don't have to be concerned about what Republicans are doing. They can go ahead and do their thing. But we'll have a voice.
Family.
Right. We'll have a bigger voice next time.
Let me ask you something. So you're on a call, and how many Black women were on that call?
It was
44,000.
No,
I mean,
the first call.
The first call, it was 90. And
It was 90.
I'll
Okay.
tell you how we know. They were able to track 44,000 people on the Zoom call. But I was on a shared line that somebody had their Zoom and they got on and they shared it. And we were sharing.
So here's the question. So here,
that many people.
So now, the question. So first of all, let me say this. I believe that at some point, you know, Black women, Black and Hispanic women, somebody is going to kind of lead this revolution at some point, right? I think that we will be saved at some point by a Black woman. So let me say that. And so having said that, I think that, and this may sound crazy, but I think the best thing that Black women and women of color can do is to create your code, stay on code, and just go make it happen. I think that, you know, if you're on a call and there's 90,000 people or whatever the case is, I'd be curious to know how many of those 90,000 people own businesses. And then from that, once you determine of that 90,000, how many own business, how many people own actual products that somebody can go and purchase? How many on that call own trucks for distribution? So what I'm saying is, if you have a network, right, you know, the only time you can get together can't be just to make a Black woman president, right? Let's use the network that you clearly have, and start creating that economic change, right? I think it's there. I think that people underestimate Black women across the board and Hispanic women. And I think it's one of those things where, you know, Republicans, one thing about them is they seem to stay on code. And they may disagree with each other, but they stay on code. And they may say whatever out in public, but when they get in that booth, they remember the code. And that's how they voted. So I just say that to say, you know, because I know that one of the questions we were talking about, you know, Black men and this and that, you know, I think that a lot of men, Black men, you know, we have kind of been indoctrinated with this idea that, you know, being the patriarch is being the leader, right? But the reality is that, you know, many of us are not the leaders. We're not the leaders of our home. We should be, but maybe we're not making leadership decisions in a sense. And so I know that a lot of times, a lot of women or a lot of people have issues with women with this masculine energy, right? Well, I think the brothers got to understand is that, you know, women are looking for the man to be a leader. But if you're not going to lead, especially if there are children involved, then I have to lead, right? And I have to exhibit a certain strength and energy to make it happen if you're not going to do it. And so I think that, you know, men, you know, we've got to, you know, we have to do some kind of inner thing with ourselves to kind of ask ourselves, are we being the leaders that our community needs? Really? You know, are we prepared? You know, are we preparing ourselves to be leaders? Are we preparing our young men to be leaders? And that's something that we have to really ask. Are we teaching or passing down survival skill sets to our young men? Probably, by and large, probably not enough. And so, you know, I am excited about, you know, again, what the future holds. I try to look, I'm in sales. So as a salesperson, you got to be an optimist, right? I can't, the glass is always half full for me, right? And so, and I think that if we look at it from a positive perspective, you know, we can kind of get ourselves to this happy place. Am I sad? You know, could Harris have created and made history? Absolutely. But do I also realize that there is also a group of people out there who do not want us to know what our lineage is? Do you think that these people want you to know how powerful you are? Do you? Do you think that they want to put the resources in place so that you can actually realize your power? And Mahogany, to your point, where people of color have been successful with far less resources. Now, can you imagine having equal resources where we would be? And we got to understand that there's a group of people out there who do not want that.
We met them.
You've seen them. They called the lady trash, didn't you? Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of. So the funniest thing is when people are losing a fight, they go dirty, right? They start throwing names and call you all kind of things because they're trying to strike that emotional chord. And so we got to understand that, you know, that's a low vibration move. If we're vibrating much higher, look, I'm not even worried about what you say to me. I laugh.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So listen. We at 1 hour and 27 minutes. So we're gonna wrap this thing up. I want to go around and Malcolm, I think you've already given us your words of encouragement. So Mahogany, give us some words of encouragement, those who need to be encouraged.
As I said earlier, a lot of us, and especially Black women, right now is a time for us to rest. And when I say rest, I'm not necessarily speaking of sleeping, but mentally and emotionally, this is a space for us to really kind of disconnect. We have done the best that we could do. The numbers reflected this. This is not an emotion. This is not a feeling. This is a fact. With that being said, we're in a place now where we need to not compare and not compete, but we also need to collaborate. So I think that right now, motivation wise, the words are for you to mind your own Black business, also for you to get rest, for you to disconnect, for you to really participate in self-care right now, and also for us to begin to collaborate and figure out how we can come together economically and collaborate with each other to support each other, because together we are just so much stronger.
Absolutely.
Right.
Me? Oh, at this moment in time, I just think that we should just be focused on the now, what's happening now, what can we do now, and focus more within our own cities, in our own county, our own state. Because believe it or not, the president of the United States, they have a lot of power, but when it comes directly to us, we need to be focused on what's happening within what we can control.
That's right.
That state, county, and city. Let's get active there. And then let's start making better choices. You know, just because they're our friends, we have to ask ourselves, do they make great leaders? And listen, if they don't, just say, look, I can't support you in getting here because I don't think that you're a good fit. That shouldn't ruin relationships, but I see that this is a conversation that ruins relationships. But in the Black community, it's a conversation that we need to engage, and we need to engage often. We need to move away from don't say that, don't say this. We're beyond what's politically correct we need to be politically astute and engaged. So I say, fear not, because this too shall pass.
Red?
I am, again, just kind of taking care of your mental health. And, I got to accepting and just thinking positive and hoping that he's going to do what he says he's going to do. So, and if not, like I said, we need to just get back into the Black communities and building stronger families. And I think that within our community will set us up.
I think that we know that we're in a space that, of course, we've seen portions of it before. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be even worse this time. I've gotten to the point where I understand what happened. I am not afraid. As Malcolm said, this is an opportunity. I, along with some other people here in Savannah, Georgia, in the rural areas surrounding Savannah, have decided that, look, we're gonna make some things happen. We're gonna bring our people together, and we're gonna be something to reckon with. And that's what I'm looking forward to. Like Malcolm said, training our young people, helping them understand what's going on right now, making sure that they have a foundation. And also the people around us working together, creating something where, listen, I can go to the Black farmers and purchase my fruits and vegetables and stuff like that versus going over here to Publix or Walmart. I haven't said in for years, but I definitely won't go now. So having farmers markets, and Mahogany dropped off, but she is a conduit to that. She's having an event on Wednesday where we're going to get together and have conversation, and they're going to have some of that farmers market items at her facility. So we're going to partake in some good food. So we want to continue to have some of those events. Savannah Black Women Win. We're having a holiday brunch at the Y Bar, which is Mahogany's facility. We're going to have a good time, but we're going to also talk about the things that we can do in the future. So just pay attention. There's probably people in your area who are planning some of these meetings and some of these events. Listen, get your rest and then start working again within your community, because we're going to come back real strong.
Well, thank you, I guess. We appreciate you, and this was an amazing conversation. We enjoyed it.
Let me say this too. We keep saying 4 years, but in 2 years, we're going to have midterm elections. Pay attention. This is when we can get our seats back to people who make decisions. 2 years. Pay attention. Okay?
Actually, midterm elections started on November the 6th. So we are late. If we haven't engaged, we are already late. So just say that. Let's get active. That's the word. Let's get active.
Let's get active.
Bye-bye.
We are here to inspire her, the total woman.
Yeah.